Okay, so today we're going to dive into a pretty revolutionary idea, the Alchemist's Garden. Now, it's not a place of magic, but of science. Think of it as a living laboratory where the materials of our future aren't manufactured, they're grown. Let's dig in.
So let's just start with this one big question. What if the materials that make up our entire world didn't come from oil wells or mines? What if they came from a garden?
I mean, just think about it. Imagine growing your next t-shirt right next to your tomatoes, or cultivating the materials for your house, your car, maybe even parts of your phone, just like you'd grow some herbs on a windowsill. And look, this isn't some far-off sci-fi fantasy. This is the new frontier of material science. And that right there, that's the whole idea behind the Alchemist's Garden. It's this really powerful way of seeing plants, not just as, food on our plate, but as these miniature, self-assembling factories for the materials we're going to need tomorrow. And the stuff that comes out of this garden, well, we call them biomaterials. Basically, they're materials that come straight from living things. We're talking plants, fungi, even microbes, and they're specifically designed to replace the conventional and, let's be honest, often polluting materials we rely on today. So you might be asking, okay, but why? Why go to all this trouble to grow our materials instead of just cranking them out in a factory? Well, the answer is all about trading in our industrial past for a biological future. And this slide, wow, it just lays it all out, doesn't it? On one hand, you've got the old way. Refineries, chemical plants, all powered by fossil fuels, leaving behind a huge environmental footprint. But then, on the other hand, there's the new way. Greenhouses and fields, powered by nothing more than sunlight and soil, creating materials that are literally designed to go back to nature.
And the benefits here, they really boil down to three huge ideas. These materials are renewable, right? Because we can always grow more plants. They're low carbon. In fact, they're carbon negative, since plants literally suck carbon out of the air to grow. And they're biodegradable, which means they can break down and just become part of the ecosystem all over again.
And what I love about this idea, and what this slide really gets at, is just how elegant it all is. Instead of forcing chemistry to happen in these giant, energy-hungry reactors, a plant just quietly does all this chemistry for us. And it does it for free. It captures carbon and builds these unbelievably complex structures using nothing but sunlight, water, and soil.
Okay, so what are we actually working with here? What are the living ingredients in this alchemist's garden? You can think of nature as a kind of workbench, where every single plant is a specialized tool.
So first, you've got what we could call the fiber masters. These are plants like hemp or flax. The ones that are amazing at growing these long, super strong cellulose fibers. Those fibers can then be turned into textiles for our clothes or strong composites for building things.
And then you've got the chemistry experts. These are the plants we're not really growing for their structure, but for the amazing molecules they cook up inside. Think of them as tiny biorefineries, creating natural oils, sticky resins, or vibrant pigments that can replace all those synthetic and often toxic additives we use in everything from plastics to paint. This table breaks it down really nicely. You see, we can use the stems for their structure in things like composites and textiles. Then you've got the leaves, perfect for color, creating natural dyes and inks. And even the roots have a job. They provide unique chemistry for natural polymers and additives. It's a whole palette of living ingredients. Okay, so how do we get from a plant in the ground to an actual usable product? Well, that's where the alchemical process comes in, turning living matter into something totally new.
And the path is actually pretty logical. First, you grow the plant, carefully controlling things like light and soil to really tune the final material's properties. Then you harvest it at just the right moment. The processing step, this one is so important. It's all about using gentle, bio-based methods like pulping or pressing instead of nasty chemicals. And finally, you prototype, turning these ingredients into usable stuff like sheets, filaments, or foams.
But here's the thing. Woven through this entire process is one huge guiding question. You see, the experiment isn't just about creating a cool new material. The real test is this. Can we make the whole system circular, low waste, and completely non-toxic from the very first seed all the way to the final product?
And when you start thinking like that, it leads to this massive shift, not just in how we make things, but in how we design them in the first place. It's a whole new philosophy built on collaborating with nature, not just taking from it.
In this quote right here, this is the absolute core of the new mindset. The old design question was, what material can I buy to make this? The new question is, what living system can I collaborate with to grow this material? That one little word change, from buy to grow, it changes absolutely everything.
You know, another huge piece of this new philosophy is designing with time in mind. I mean, let's be real, not everything needs to last for 1,000 years. By working with biological systems, we can literally create materials that are tuned for a specific lifespan, whether that's just a few weeks for, say, a coffee cup, or decades for a building.
And that is what designing for disassembly is all about. It's about creating products that are meant to biodegrade when you're done with them. We're talking about objects you can actually compost, that can go right back into the soil that grew them in the first place. It is the ultimate closed-loop system. So, at the end of the day, the Alchemist's garden is really a whole new way of thinking about where our stuff comes from. It's about a world where the supply chain for our materials begins with soil and sunlight, not with smokestacks.
And that leaves all of us with one final big question to think about. We're really standing at a crossroads between that old industrial model and this new living one. So the question for us is, what kind of future are we going to choose to grow?